This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast from constructionleadingedge.com. My name is Todd DeWalt. I'm the guy behind the microphone. It's my job to help you grow your business, grow your skills, grow your income. Today I want to talk about, I'm going to start with three numbers, 991, 19, and 2. I'm going to explain those in a few minutes. But I've got a couple of resources that I want to share with you, whether you're a construction business owner or a leader or you want to be one of those things. I've got some resources I want to get in your hands. First of all, I talk to a lot of construction business owners. I have over the last 4 years since I've been doing this podcast. And one common thing I kept hearing was business owners said, I don't have anybody to talk to. I wish I had somebody to share ideas with, bounce ideas off, find out how they did things, try to avoid some learning curve, try to avoid some mistakes, maybe just have somebody to vent to, maybe just to know I'm not alone in this whole thing. So I had an idea. What if there was a group for construction business owners, people who were running a construction business or who planned on running a construction business? What if you could be part of a network of people like that from all over the country, even all over the world, so you could share ideas, get advice, and just talk to people? Well, I set that group up recently. It's the Construction Business Accelerator Mastermind Group. And I've got a special deal running right now. I want you to get in that group. If you like the podcast, but you want to take it to the next level, you want to be able to interact with all the other people who listen to the podcast, want to get advice from each other, want to ask me questions, and be able to interact with everybody that listens to the podcast and all the like-minded people just like you, then I want you to go check this out really quickly. Go to constructionleadingedge.com/group. And I've got a special deal for the first 100 people who sign up for that. So hurry, go check it out. constructionleadingedge.com/group. Check out the Construction Business Accelerator Mastermind Group. It's going to help you get where you want to be. Next, if you want to be able to create construction project schedules using Microsoft Project, I've got a deal for you right now. I've got a course that I'm giving away right now. I want to send you a DVD with my course, with the guide. I'm going to send you the transcript, and all you got to do is pay a couple of bucks for shipping. This thing is relatively expensive. Dozens or hundreds of people have bought this thing over the past few years. It's really helped people, and I want to put it in your hands because you need to be able to create your own project schedules if you're going to lead projects. So to get your free copy of my Microsoft Project Scheduling course, all you got to do is go to constructionleadingedge.com/schedule, fill that form out, and I'll get that thing in the mail to you. Lastly, if you own a business and you want to take it to the next level, you want some help clarifying the vision and the direction of your company, what do you got to do to get there? Then I want to help you. I want to give you a free 30-minute business breakthrough coaching session. To book yours, if you own a construction company, go to constructionleadingedge.com/call, pick a time, and you will be on the calendar. So go get that stuff. Hit pause right now if you need to. Go grab your spot in the Construction Business Accelerator Mastermind Group. The first 100 people get a special deal, get a bunch of bonuses. It's kind of crazy. So go check that out. Okay, so those three numbers, 991, 19, and 2. There were 991 construction-related deaths in 2016. That is 19 fatalities per week, which is a little over 2 on average per day. That means on average, 2 construction workers, between 2 and 3 construction workers a day are dying on the job site. Now, some people may think, well, that means we need to have better policies, we need to have better training, it's the workers' fault. Well, I think a lot of it is on us as leaders. I think we've been approaching safety, the whole idea of safety enforcement, safety management, safety policies. I think we've been approaching it all wrong, and psychology experts would agree. That's what I want to talk about today. There's a better way to keep your people safe. Frankly, our way of managing and handling safety is not all that effective. Almost 1,000 people a year died in 2016. And not only is it not that effective, psychologists and a lot of the research would tend to say that our way of enforcement is actually making it worse. So let me talk about that. I'm going to talk about some wrong beliefs when it comes to safety and your job as the leader, as the manager, for keeping people safe. All right? So the first belief is that if you believe it's your job to think for your people, if you believe it's your job to keep your people safe, if you believe it's your job to tell your people exactly what to do when it comes to safety, that's wrong. Okay? Here's what. Let me give you an example of how this works. Back during World War II on D-Day, there was a dramatic difference in the way that the Allies and the Nazis operated and the way that they were led. And it resulted in the Allies' victory on D-Day because the Nazis were very much a command and control organization. They didn't move without orders. If they didn't have orders, they didn't move. So there were actually entire battalions or divisions of Nazi tanks and soldiers ready that could have been moved, but they didn't get the orders, so they didn't move. The Allies, on the other hand, had more of a loose framework, and they operated under a paradigm of empowered execution. So they made their team aware of what the end result, what the desired end result was. Here's what you need to do. Here are the parameters on the field. Here are the lines on the field that you need to stay inside of. And then they set their leaders up within this loose framework so that they could make decisions on the ground, on the beach, in the hedgerows. And that was one of the biggest contributing factors to the Allies' ability to be victorious on D-Day. So you think about the way we handle safety enforcement. We are telling people, this is exactly how you're going to do this. Don't you dare get above 6 feet on a ladder or get above 6 feet without being tied off. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't work without a hard hat. Make sure you wear your safety glasses. We're telling people exactly what to do. And imagine, what if our special forces were trained like that? What if they were managed like that? What if the Navy SEALs were micromanaged and told exactly what to do? Here's what you do. If you run into a situation, you have to call headquarters and ask what to do. It just wouldn't work. And frankly, construction job sites are more like a battlefield than they are like a factory. In a factory, it's very repetitive. You're going to do the same thing over and over and over. But construction sites are very dynamic, right? Over the course of a day, new hazards can appear and go away. It's more like a battlefield than a factory. So it's important that our people, our boots on the ground, the people closest to the hazards, are empowered to identify the hazard and that they know what to do and that they'll actually do it. So it's not your job to think for people. It's not your job to keep people safe. It's not your job to tell your employees or your crew members or your subcontractors what to do. Your job is to train your people. It's your job to give them access to the information and the tools and the resources. It's your job to outline the lines on the field and establish what is not negotiable. Okay? If it's an OSHA rule, it's not negotiable. It's just that simple. It's not up for discussion. It's not up for interpretation. Your job is to outline the non-negotiables. This is what the desired end result is. This is what's in play. This is what's out of play. This is how we're going to do it. We have to be tied off above a certain height. We have to have trench boxes and trench protection in over a certain depth. We have to do this. These are just non-negotiables. Those are the lines on the field. So your job is to empower your people, train them, equip them, give them what they need, and then let's talk about motivation. Another common misconception is, quote, I have to motivate you to work safely. Okay? If a lot of people think, well, I have to motivate my people. I just can't motivate my guys to work safely. I just can't get through to them. They're just not motivated. I have to motivate them. Here's the reality. Everybody has all the motivation that they need. Okay? Here's another reality. people don't do things for your reasons. You cannot motivate somebody else. Okay? You can't motivate somebody. What you can do is help them find their own motivation. All right? Because here's the reality. People do things for their own reasons. People do things for their own reasons. They don't do things for your reasons. So if you're telling somebody what to do, you may be telling them really good reasons why it's important. But here's an interesting fact. Psychologists have found that this thing called psychological reactance happens when you tell somebody what to do. When you tell somebody, you have to do this. You have to be tied off before you walk the top of that wall. You have to wear a hard hat. You have to do this. There's this thing that happens when we have our options taken away from us. This is human nature. When we are told what to do, when our options are taken away from us, we have what's called psychological reactance. If you tell me not to do something, then I am more likely to do that thing, just because you told me not to do it. On the flip side, if you tell me to do something, then I am more likely not to do it, for the simple fact that you just told me to do it. We respond negatively. Most people respond negatively when given instructions on what exactly to do. Just think about it. Think about the last time somebody told you exactly what to do. How did you respond? Probably not very positively, probably not very cooperatively. When an order is given, people either comply or they defy. Compliance or defiance. And that just doesn't work. So people don't do things for your reasons. People don't do things for your motivation. People don't do things for the reasons that you tell them. People do things for their own reasons. And if you want to get somebody to change their behavior, then the best thing you can do is put them in a situation where they hear themselves say why they should change. Think about the last time that you addressed somebody who wasn't working safely. They weren't tied off, didn't have a hard hat on, didn't have safety glasses, seatbelt, whatever. You might ask something like, well, why aren't you tied off? Why didn't you have your safety glasses on? Why didn't you have your hard hat on? Now think about it. Do you really want to know why they didn't have all that stuff in place? Here's a better question to ask if you want to have a productive conversation, is to ask somebody, why do you think it's a good idea to wear your hard hat? Why do you think it's a good idea to be tied off? That's a much more productive conversation. People change their behavior when they hear themselves say why they should. There's a book that I would recommend if you want to go deeper on this subject. It's called Instant Influence. The author's name is Michael Pantalon. He is a PhD, and he basically developed a way for emergency room doctors to help people whose lives were at risk because of addiction or other self-destructive behaviors to change. So if he's got a method that will help, this method has helped people whose lives were at risk in emergency rooms because of addiction change, and I guarantee it'll work for construction workers as well. So check that out, Instant Influence by Michael Pantalon. All right, so here's another misconception, another wrong belief. It is, quote, I have to prescribe how you work safely. I have to tell you every move to make, end quote. That is not your job as a manager, as a leader. The truth is, your job is to define the lines on the field. What are OSHA policies? What are company policies? Your job is to establish the non-negotiables. And your job is to define what Jocko Willink would call commander's intent in his book, Extreme Ownership. The commander's intent describes the desired end state even when the plan falls apart. So the key is to establish these are the lines on the field. This is what's in play. This is what's out of play. These are the non-negotiables. And then clarify what the desired end state is, and then equip and empower your people to work within those guidelines and parameters. Focus more on the what, and then leave the how up to the people who are actually going to be closest to the hazards and actually doing the work, closest to the problems. And So the key mindset shift is, instead of you telling people exactly how to do their job, the key is you define the desired end state, the commander's intent, and then you involve them in the how. Involve them in the planning process. Instead of telling people how to do things, ask people, how are you going to do it? Establish the end result, the lines on the field, the non-negotiables, and then say, how are you going to do that? What do you need? What can I help with? Ask more questions, make fewer statements. Ask them to develop their own plan. Because when somebody develops a plan for themselves that they're going to execute, they will run through walls to make sure that that plan is executed and that it works. On the contrary, if somebody is handed a plan that they were not a part of developing, and then they're told to implement it to the T, what do you think happens whenever they run into a snag or a hurdle? Well, this plan didn't work, and they don't take any ownership in it because they don't have any ownership in it. They were not part of it. See, one of the biggest fundamental problems with management in general, and that goes for all management, but in this context, safety management and safety enforcement, is we're using external motivators. We're using carrots and sticks to try to get people to do things, whether it's incentives to work safely, carrots and discipline discipline and enforcement as the sticks if people don't do what they're supposed to do. And the research on human motivation is very clear that external motivators do not work in this environment. I posted a TED Talk from a guy named Daniel Pink. He wrote a book called Drive, and it's all about human emotion. If you want a good high-level master class in human psychology and how people are motivated, go check this out. It's on my website, constructionleadingedge.com/motivation. It's a 20-minute TED Talk. He talks about how external motivators don't work for complex tasks. They may work for very mechanistic type tasks, but they don't work for most tasks where people need to be thinking creatively. And I would say on construction sites, we need our people thinking creatively. So external motivators, carrots and sticks, don't work. There are two big motivators that will work. The two biggest motivators, if we want to use actual research and not old command and control stuff from the last 50 years, then there are two big motivators we want to tap into. One is autonomy. Two is purpose. Two big motivators, autonomy and purpose. Autonomy means that we have the ability to direct our own actions. Think about your own motivation. When you have a project or you have a task or something that's yours and you're going to run with it, and somebody just said, hey, here's what I want done, get it taken care of. Think about how motivated and creative and energetic you are about that thing. We can tap into that same thing when it comes to safety by interjecting autonomy into the process, by bringing the people who are going to be closest to the hazards into the planning process, saying, hey, we don't have all the answers. Like we in the office, we in the trailer, we don't have all the answers. Here are the non-negotiables. Here's what we have to do at the end of the day. How do you want to do it? What do you need? Tell me what you need. We'll get you what you need. If you're a safe organization, then you're going to get confined space tripods. You're going to get gas monitors. You're going to get harnesses and retractable lanyards and hard hats and face shields and respirators. You're going to get what they need. So the key is to involve your people in the process, tap into that autonomy. That's the first big motivator. The second big motivator is purpose. We do our thing for reasons bigger than ourselves. Okay? That's what purpose means. To have a purpose means that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. Now, so much of safety training is you need to go home safe every day. It's all about you. And it's this, we're building little individual silos on the job site where everybody's responsible for their safety. Make sure you go home safe every day. And that's good. But what's even better is to tap into that purpose and say, hey, we all go home safe every day. It's all of our jobs to make sure we all go home safe every day. It's the It's the drywall finisher's job to make sure that the electrician goes home safe every day. It's the surveyor's job to make sure that the grader operator goes home safe every day. We tap into that purpose, okay? We all go home safe every day. So if you want to motivate people, if you want to see people change, then you got to do a few things. You've got to understand that people do things for their reasons. They don't do things for your reasons. It's not your job to tell people exactly what to do. It's your job to give them the education, the training, the resources, and the empowerment, and then involve them in the planning process. Empower those people. Tap into those motivators, and you will see change. Here's another thought. Safety in a lot of cases is thrown in as a priority along with budget, schedule, quality, customer satisfaction, etc. But the problem with priorities is that they shift around based on the circumstances. Sometimes you have to sacrifice schedule for quality. Sometimes you have to sacrifice cost for schedule and vice versa. But you need to take safety and human lives and those 991 people who died in 2016 on construction sites, you got to take them out of the priority list. Safety cannot be a priority. It has to be a conviction. It has to be a value. It's not something that can be shifted. It has to become a value. All right? So I want to give you a few tactical, practical strategies, some things I've picked up over the past 20 years that will help you on your jobs. These are some things you can put to work right away. So the first thing is to do a job hazard analysis. All right? So the way this would work would be you would ask each crew leader to make a plan for each phase or each day and do it in advance. Okay? So the crew leader's job is going to be to identify the hazards that are coming up tomorrow, next week, whatever. Identify what the non-negotiables are. What are the company policies, the OSHA standards that need to be complied with, and then flush out any equipment needs. What equipment do you need? What training do you need? What people do you need? Is there something that needs to happen? But the key is you as the leader have your crew leader, have a foreman, have somebody who's as close to the problem as possible fill out their job hazard analysis, and don't just have them fill out a piece of paper. This doesn't have to be something formal. It doesn't have to be electronic. It doesn't even have to be written down, quite frankly. The key is that they go through the process. Dwight Eisenhower, I think it was Eisenhower, who had a quote that said, "In battle, plans are useless, but planning is indispensable." That sounds kind of weird. Plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. Because when it comes to job hazard analysis, somebody could do a half-ass plan. They could scribble something down, fill out a couple of forms on an app, whatever, and have a plan, but it's not well thought out. They checked the box, but it's not well thought out. They had a plan, but they didn't do the planning. When somebody does the planning and they think through the process, then they become aware of what those non-negotiables are, what are the hazards, what do they need to have, and they think through front to back, left to right, right to left, through that whole process, and they know it. So that way, when something goes wrong or something changes, the person who has done the planning is there close to the problem, and they can make adjustments on the fly. Hope that makes sense. All right. The next is to involve the entire team in developing safety solutions. It's not your job as the manager, the business owner, the leader to come up with all the solutions to solve all the problems. Let's tap into the autonomy, let's tap into the purpose, and involve the team in developing solutions. This could be having some sort of a competition for the best safety innovations. Challenge people to come up with ideas for situations that need to be solved. Several years ago, I was managing projects for Duke Energy and went to a project site in Charlotte, and this was a large, very large, multi-million-dollar high-rise TI fit-out project. And the general contractors had a not really a contest, but a program like this where they would take ideas for how to addressed safety problems. And one of the really cool things they came up with was, one of the problems they dealt with was in a crowded TI fit-out project, there were extension cords everywhere, all over the floors. Guys were running lifts over them. Cords were getting destroyed, causing electrocution hazards. And somebody came up with the idea of this stand, a very cheap stand, that kept the cords up off the ground. So these 7-foot-high stands, and the cords would be draped on top of that, run down the corridors, kept the cords off the floor. One of the guys on the crew came up with that. So involve your team in developing solutions. Have a competition. Doesn't have to be financial rewards. Some sort of recognition would be great, but involve your people. See what they can come up with. If it's not a large project, then just go to people on your team. Doesn't matter who they are, and just say, hey, Tim, I'd like you to think about some ideas for how we can solve this problem. Let me know what you think about the day after tomorrow. Let's talk about it. And then just get their wheels turning, because this does a couple of things. This gets them thinking about it. And when you seem to trust them enough to ask their opinion, man, that's a huge motivator. Trust is a huge motivator. So involve your team in developing solutions. If you have a large project that's ongoing, then you could have a project-wide rewards program for no accidents. So for every month that there are no accidents, then you're going to have a cookout. Maybe you could have giveaways. I've seen this done where if the entire project goes for a month with no accidents, then they give away, there's a drawing, and a $50 gift card is given away. After 2 months, it's $100, and the pot just keeps getting bigger and bigger. That way, there's this shared purpose and accountability. So it's not just I go home safely, but it's we all go home safely, and we're incentivized to do so. So that then you have somebody from the electrician who's looking out for risks for guys on the plumbing crew, and vice versa. So on large projects, consider putting together a project-wide rewards program for no accidents. If you've got a smaller company, you can do that for the entire company. But I read or heard recently the former CEO of Home Depot said, culture is great, mission statements are great, all that kind of stuff is great, but people in your organization will realize something is important to you when you celebrate it. So when you celebrate something, that speaks more loudly than anything else. So celebrate safety, and that will reinforce the kind of behavior you're looking for. Real simple thing that I did 20 years ago after going through this training program, they encouraged all of us to put a picture of a family member or somebody really important to us inside of our hard hat. That way, every time you take your hard hat off, you look. I had a picture of my daughter. She was a baby at the time. Every time I took that thing off or put it back on, there was a picture of Madeline right there. And that reminded me that there's the reason I'm working safely. That's my motivation. I need to go home safely, not just for me, because most construction guys and gals, if you're in the business, you think you're indestructible, 10 feet tall, bulletproof, all that bullshit. But the reality is, if you want to get people to work safely, you need to help them see their own motivation. And by simply having them put a picture of somebody really important in their lives that's going to be affected if they get hurt or killed in there, that's going to help them motivate them to work safely. In safety trainings, one thing that I've found is very helpful is to show the aftermath of accidents. Show what the rescue scene looks like at a trench collapse. Show interviews with the wife and the mother of the guys whose bodies they're trying to, it's not a rescue, but they're trying to recover. In most trench collapse situations, they're not rescue, they're recovery attempts. So if you want to get people's attention, if you want to help them see things differently, show them videos, real-life news footage of the aftermath of accidents. Help them see the connection between their behaviors pre-accident and what it's going to do to their families post-accident. And make them think, what's going to happen if you get hurt? What's going to happen if you are off work for a month or 6 months? Or what if you die? What's it going to do to your kids? What's your wife going to do? What's going to happen to your family? Maybe you are bulletproof. Maybe if you die, it's not going to affect you. But what about your family? What about somebody bigger than yourself that's tapping into that purpose like I talked about? And then you may be wondering, well, what if this doesn't work? What if we do all the internal motivation stuff, we don't use carrots and sticks, we tap into autonomy, we tap into purpose, and we're empowering people, and then I've still got this person, and they just won't They won't change. They won't work safely. Well, at that point, you have a core values difference. You have somebody who is at odds with your core values. They do not want to change, and there are people who will not change, and at that point, you just have to let them go. You have to make the change at that point. If they're not willing to change their behavior, and if even after understanding the impact on the rest of their company, on their families, and everybody outside of themselves, if they're still not willing to change, then you have to make a change. That's when you have to let those people go. So, hope that helps. Let me know what you think. Shoot me an email, todd@constructionleadingedge.com. I think this is really going to help. I've seen this work. The psychology, the research is there. This will help you in your business. If you have any questions, let me know. All right, that wraps this episode up. Remember, go join the Construction Business Accelerator Mastermind Group. If you own a construction business, this is going to help you get solutions to the problems you're facing, get the accountability and the support that you need. If you're planning to start a business, I can't imagine a better thing for you to do than join this group. The investment is ridiculously low right now for the first 100 people. There are crazy good bonuses that you're going to get for signing up. I can't imagine anything better if you're planning to start a business. You need to go join this group right now. You can do that, constructionleadingedge.com/group. Again, special deal there for the first 100 people who sign up. If you want to get a free copy of my scheduling course to use Microsoft Project, go to constructionleadingedge.com/schedule. And lastly, if you want to grow your business, you need some help clarifying vision and direction and getting where you want to be and get to the next level. If you can see it, but you just don't know how to get there and you need some help filling in those missing puzzle pieces, I want to help you. Let's get on the phone. Go to constructionleadingedge.com/call, CALL. Hey, if you can't remember this stuff, just remember todd@constructionleadingedge.com. Shoot me an email. I'll get you in touch with the resources that you need. That is all for this episode. Hope this helps. Talk to you next time. Thanks.